Okay, welcome to Somatic Self-Love and Superfoods. We have the most exciting um, episode today with Dr. Christian Strang. She is a mystic metaphysical psychologist and an Amazon best-selling author of 13 books. She supports coaches, therapists, healers, writers, and artists in creating their own thriving economies as prosperous healers through her Love Territory Guide training, Sacred Spirituality Coach certification, and Organic Spiritual Nutrition line. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy we get to do this together and have this conversation because it is so needed, especially right now with everything that's happening in the Matrix. So, yeah, happy to dive into it with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So if you have not heard Dr. Christian talking about spiritual nutrition and organic foods and why is that so important, that's what we're going to be diving into today. So there are some pieces that she's been talking about in various places. I feel like it's really important to get it all in one place so that we can really understand what is this? Why is it so important? Why do we need it? Why do we need it now? So the first thing, you mentioned something about spiritual nutrition several months ago, maybe, and I would love to start there. What is spiritual nutrition? What does that even mean?
Yeah, I love that question because that was a whole new concept to me. So, I've been really passionate about food and health for as long as I can remember, primarily because I struggled with so many food allergies and really had to consistently adjust my diet from age 23 on. So I thought I was eating healthy. I was eating gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. My body was just not allowing. It wasn't that I didn't want to eat those things. My body literally would just have terrible reactions to any of those toxins. Citric acid started affecting my body. Like all these different things were happening. And I really didn't understand the journey I was on, except that my body is wise and I have to listen to it. And then in 2020, through my own inquiry with my connection with Source and Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, who are the God goddess of the golden age, I started being brought this information about nutrition and detoxification being super important to the human ascension journey. Now, we knew that, and we know that eating healthy is great for the body, right? It helps us live a higher quality of life. It helps us enjoy our life more. It helps the body regenerate and heal itself. But the concepts that they started bringing to me, that I started living as they guided me, is that we actually need a certain quality of nutrition in order to experience enlightenment and ascension here on earth. And then they took it even further for me in that it's not just for this lifetime, which makes it an extraordinary difference for our life in this incarnation, but also any unhealed traumas and toxins in the body at the time of transition are carried into the next body. And that a lot of these toxins that humans are eating in the food and water is actually keeping them stuck in the cycle of samsara. So that is where we started, and I started understanding that this isn't just about eating healthy so you have a good quality of life and help your body heal and regenerate in this lifetime, which is great and important. This is actually so much deeper for us spiritually, that those who are on the path of enlightenment and ascension can actually not achieve those states and will stay stuck in samsara if they do not detoxify their body of the toxins and the chemicals that they've been ingesting unconsciously and unknowingly often. So that was a huge shift for me. And I started working with people in my private practice and animals as they were making their transition. And we were spending an extraordinary amount of time detoxifying the body. And I couldn't understand, why is that a priority? If the body is just a meat suit, if you're just done with the body, and then your spirit goes to the other realms, then why are we spending at their last moments on earth? Why are we spending so much time detoxifying the body? And that's when Source and Higher Wisdom revealed to me that we actually carry those toxins and traumas that have not been processed into the next lifetime. And that changed the game for me at a whole other level of I have to tell everyone this, because often the program in the Matrix is live for today. Your body's just a meat suit. Even in New Age spirituality, you're not taking it with you. But turns out you are taking the unprocessed traumas and toxins with you. And that's why spiritual nutrition is so important.
That
That
is
is
mind blowing. I
Totally.
imagine most people don't know that. And that is, that's new that like we actually take this with us. And it does seem surprising that, you know, as we're making our transition, that would be important to like remove the toxins from our body. Like that doesn't make logical sense to my mind. But it makes sense the way you explain it. So thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I'll also add, because you're right, I think we can go deeper here. The whole point of the toxins, the glyphosate, all the pesticides, the EMFs, all the toxicity is to disconnect the human from their soul and their spirit. So that's why if there hasn't been a concerted effort to detoxify the body, they humans will stay stuck in a loop of samsara. And some people are like, well, I love Earth. I love, being human. And that's great. And if you don't understand what's happening, you're actually trapped in a pattern of repeat that doesn't allow your soul to be free and experience the highest levels of consciousness and bliss and ecstasy and all of the things. So we're not saying being incarnate is a bad thing. We're just saying that the toxins and pollutants that have been used are actively used to keep the human disconnected from who they really are so they cannot ascend and become the God goddess that they're here to be and create in all the ways that they're here to create. And we want to liberate as many humans as possible from that.
Yes, yes, thank you. And I would add, while we're here, it's doing the same thing. So, my tagline for years and what I've been saying is return to your body, return to nature, return to source. Everything that isn't that and all the things that you mentioned. So toxins in the food, the air, the water, all the technology, you name it, it's out there. Everything of that nature, the purpose is to disconnect us from our higher wisdom, our higher path, so that while we're here, so not even about the next lifetime, because that's important, but like this lifetime,
That's right.
we cannot do what we are here to do when we're disconnected,
That's
because you
right.
can't hear your higher wisdom when you're not connected to your body, when you're not connected to your higher wisdom, when you're not connected to Gaia, Mother Earth. You literally can't hear what you need to hear and know what you need to know, and everything's getting scrambled to such a degree that you can't even do what you're here to do in this life.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so, what it does is create a cycle of repeat in this incarnation. People that are like, I just can't break this pattern. I keep attracting the same thing over and over again. It diminishes your capacity to create, to what people might call manifest in the fourth dimension. It diminishes your capacity to really live in the radiance of your being. Like the whole program around aging and disease and death is all a distorted program. And we stay stuck in that in this life, but we don't get to experience the fullness of our being in this incarnation when we aren't aware of this and we aren't eating and drinking with this understanding of spiritual nutrition.
Yes, and that leads us perfectly into a quote that I wanted to ask you about. So in another interview, you mentioned organic superfoods from high vibrational consciousness is an entry point to all healing and awakening. So why is food the entry point?
Great question. So our bodies are literally fueled by whatever we are putting in them. And when I was speaking with my connection to source about this and talking about this conversation, and they gave me a very basic example, but it really drives the point home. When you think about taking your luxury vehicle, let's say you have a beautiful luxury car that you love and you spent a lot of money on this and are continuing to, and you go to a gas station, like I'm in Oregon, so like Space Age, and like you get the cheapest quality gas, you are going to have a bumpier ride. If you take that luxury car and you put premium gasoline in it, you are going to have a more efficient ride, a less bumpy ride. You're going to have better gas mileage. Everything is going to be created in a different frequency. So, literally, what we put into our bodies is what we're created into being. Like our cells are turning over. Is it every 28 days or every 7 years? You have a whole new body. Like the body is consistently regenerating. And what is it regenerating into? Whatever you're putting into it, what medications, what medicines, what foods, whatever it is you're putting into it. Now, we take it a step further with that quote because we're talking about the consciousness of the food. So, do you know who's growing your food? Do you know what they're thinking when they're pulling, when they're harvesting that food? Do you know if they're praying over that food and blessing it, or if they're like struggling? Do you know what they're spraying on it? Do you know the consciousness of the people that are creating your packaged foods? And the answer most of the time is no. And that's why at the first start of 2020, the guidance was grow your own food, start planting your own gardens, get more invested in the food that you're putting into your body. We know in books like Anastasia, she talks about merging with the seed of the plant. And so that plant is designed to help you heal. That consciousness is an elevated consciousness. So then we start looking at, well, we can't grow all our own food and we don't have the time to harvest and prepare. And we could spend our whole day just trying to feed our families and not get any of the other things that are a part of our mission done. So now we have to look at, where can I get high vibrational food that is sourced in a spiritual consciousness? So we just want to get as pure as we can, because we know we can't, not everything is 100% that way. So where can we get the purest food? Well, it comes from our own gardens. If your garden's outdoors and you've tested your water to make sure there's no glyphosate in the water. Right now, glyphosate is showing up in the rainwater. So we've got this whole, the more we know, the deeper we have to go in, okay, I can't control all of these pieces, but I can control some of them. So I can grow my own food. I can align with organizations and companies that have food that is regeneratively grown, is fully organic, and is sourced in a consciousness that is loving of humans and the earth, right? We know that companies like Kellogg and I don't know what are the major brands like Doritos and Coke, these companies do not care about humans. They're not trying to make us healthy. They're trying to kill us and make money. So we have to shift that game, because what we focus on and what we spend our money on is what we create more of. So let's find those organizations and those collectives that their food is in compostable packaging, that there's compostable, excuse me, there's a higher consciousness and a love for the humans and the human journey. And so that is what I was brought. And when that happened, when I was brought the organization of Purium and I started taking in the superfoods, that's when all of this started downloading for me about spiritual nutrition. And then more guidance was coming through that I've shared with you about what happens when we're here and what happens when we leave this body. And it just all started coming into place. And it really challenged me, because there's so much rhetoric in the spiritual communities and at large that the body's a meat suit, it doesn't matter. And that is just not the case. This is our vehicle for actualization here on earth. So how we care for it determines the quality of life we have here, and turns out the quality of life we'll have to come.
Yes, thank you. I think another thing that I've seen a lot that is equally important are the people who understand that this body is our vehicle, it is our temple. I am caring for it so well. I am growing my own food. I am so conscious of what I'm putting in my body. I don't eat toxins. I eat organic. I eat non-GMO. I grow what I can. I know my farmers. What I have come to understand, and maybe you can shed a little more light on this, is that is wonderful. And that is the best place to start. 100% absolutely. Non-GMO, organic, know your farmers, grow your own food when you can. And that isn't actually enough at this stage. Like what I've been being brought and what I've seen, and I'm sure you can speak to, is like you mentioned with the rainwater, we are not able to control. So unless we are like Anastasia from Ringing Cedars and live in the Russian taiga in the middle of the forest, and hopefully some of you do, that you live in the middle of nowhere and you have hundreds of acres and you grow your own food and it's blessed, that is amazing. That is eventually how we will all be. And it will be amazing and wonderful. Until then, though, like I'm looking outside at a farm, like farmland, it's gorgeous, but I guarantee you they're spraying that with all kinds of terrible things. And I cannot control the farmer next door. I cannot control my neighbor who might be spraying Roundup. I cannot control the rainwater. I cannot control what they're spraying in the air. I cannot control so many of these things where, where is the farmer that you're getting it from growing? Where what is being rained down upon your things? What are you breathing in the air? So it's like at this point in time, there is such an enhanced toxicity that just the basic, I can, I pay attention to what goes in my body doesn't cut it anymore. Can you speak a little bit to like, because you and I, of course, we are both in love with Purium. We have been using it for years and it is just the most amazing thing. Can you speak to a little bit of like why now that is so much more important because of all this? Like, why is Purium different? Why does that even matter? Aren't they, isn't it the same thing?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that in because that's where I was at, right? I was at that base level of health and nutrition and thought I was fine. However, what started happening for me on my spiritual path is I started crying when I saw cows. You've heard me talk about this. And then I was like, I can't eat meat. I can't eat animal flesh. And my body, needs iron and needs these various things. What am I going to do? And that's really what was my inquiry that I was led to Purium on. And then 3 days in to doing my first ULT or my first 30-day nourishment experience, I felt my cells light up in a way that I didn't even know they could. That's because I had already been eating clean for 20 years. So I was available for that. But there was a detoxification that it was activating and a radiance and a lighting up of my cells that I was not getting to by growing my own food, knowing my farmers, eating toxin free, what I thought was toxin free, because of what is happening in the matrix. There is this ramp up that we all can feel and see of poisoning the humans because there's a desperation because the artificial matrix is failing, it is falling apart. So it's kind of like grasping at straws, trying to take down as many humans as possible. Now, why take down humans? Just to keep us stuck in samsara, because that is what the artificial matrix feeds off of, that energy. So at a spiritual level, this is like life. I want to say life or death, but it's not that simplistic. It's life or
Life in
life,
another life.
life in another life, and where you go in your next life, and the quality of life you live in this life, and if you're able to actualize your full potential in this incarnation, all of that. So the body is created to naturally detoxify. It is just undergoing such a huge level of toxification from the air, the water, the soil, the food, that now we need to bring in additional support. So why Purium over any other option that's out there? For me, the game changer is the spiritual consciousness, because the founder of Purium is a spiritual healer, is a visionary who was a breatharian and was just drinking kamut, several times a day and meditating when he had the spiritual download of what he was supposed to create to support Earth. And that is eventually became Purium. Now, he tried all the traditional channels to begin with. He tried getting into co-ops. And then he was even doing the whole Garden of Life before Garden of Life sold their soul to China, so he was doing, and he still does some powders for some brands who haven't sold out to China. So really the only option to get these high quality, high vibration, spiritual consciousness foods into the hands of as many humans as possible was network marketing, which was something I wasn't interested in. There's a lot of programming about network marketing in the Matrix. Rightly so, because Amazon is the biggest pyramid scheme. The government is the biggest pyramid scheme. The Internal Revenue Service is the biggest pyramid scheme. So, of course, anything that's putting power and abundance into the hands of the people is going to have a negative connotation in the artificial matrix. So that's just part of all of our work, to just wake up outside of the programming and go, wait, if the mainstream is saying this is BS, maybe I need to look deeper, because if the mainstream is saying go for it, we recommend don't go for it. And if the mainstream is saying stay away from it, you might want to lean into it. So the difference with Purium is that it's tested 7 times over. These are farms that they have long-term, long-standing relationships with. It's regeneratively grown food. It's in compostable packaging. And the consciousness is literally to support healing the earth and to create the new world. So you've got a match on all the physical levels, and then you have the match on the consciousness level. And what I was shown, I had tried many detoxes and cleanses over the years, just, like, oh, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do that. And they were painful and horrible. Has anyone done an Ayurvedic cleanse? It's terrible, absolutely terrible. I did the maple syrup and the lemon and, yeah, all the things, right?
Pepper.
Yeah, cayenne pepper, yes. Totally just horrible for the body. this was the first time I did a cleanse. I was not hungry. Excuse me. I was not hungry. I was not struggling. My body did not feel like it was wasting away. I felt nourished. I had energy. I was sleeping great. And I was having a vibrancy in my cells that I had never experienced before. So the difference with Purium to me is the consciousness and the level of care and intention. I've toured the facility. They are so on it to make sure there is not one, there is no glyphosate, there is no heavy metals, there is no gluten in the products that are meant to be gluten-free. Like everything is so tried and true tested so that you are getting literally the purest food that you can absolutely have. And it is honestly the purest food that we can have. Now, I haven't tested the glyphosate levels in my rainwater, so I couldn't tell you, and I don't know if other people have done that, but I need to have something that I'm eating every day that I know has zero toxins. Has to. I have to find something. And so Purium is really my foundation. I don't grocery shop the same way. I don't spend money the same way with my groceries because I have my foundation of absolutely clean, toxic-free nutrition. And then I'm always looking for other partners for things that I can't create that is totally clean and clear and compostable packaging. And as you know, it's more than ever, but it's very few. So we've still got a long way to go. And I'm grateful that we have Purium to get us through. And that's really my understanding that the founder saw that Purium would be a bridge as we were building the golden age.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. And I actually heard Magenta Pixie, who's kind of a well-known channel in the UK, and she brought through, she has nothing to do with nutrition, nothing to do with really, I've never heard her talk about this before ever, but she brought through last week a transmission from, you know, her spirit source. And it literally said, we need, because of the enhanced toxicity that we're being dealt, we need concentrated green powders, like concentrated grasses and clean seaweeds. And the reason that we need the concentrated portion, because, you know, like we've been talking about, we eat so clean and we are so careful of this and so careful of that, but they have ramped up so much of the enhanced toxicity that we need enhanced. She was calling it like the emerald green, you know, hues of all the spectrums. She's really funny the way she speaks. But that really struck a chord with me because like the kamut, which I just dearly love, it was this, Purium's original product. It's an Egyptian wheat grass blend, and that has 6 pounds of greens. Like that's the equivalent of 6 pounds of greens. No one can eat 6 pounds of greens. So like that really put together like, oh, that's another reason we need this, because we can't eat as many greens as we need to help our body clean out and clear out what is coming. And so that was a big aha for me too, because there's so much toxicity. We need more of nature's power. And she mentioned specifically, you know, kamut, spirulina, barley, chlorella. And those are all the things that Purium puts in all the things. And they literally have something called green spectrum that is literally that. Like it almost exactly matched what she was saying. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. But that really helped me because we, beyond what we're just eating, like beyond that, like, okay, everything's organic and glyphosate free and all of that, we actually need more than we could possibly physically eat because our body is dealing with more than we can physically handle.
That's exactly right. And that's why the message since 2020 has been to saturate your body with these Purium superfoods. Like
Yeah.
saturate your body. I cannot get enough of the greens, you know, like you said, you got to be eating, drinking kamut, spirulina, chlorella, barley. But here's the problem with other powders. They are not testing them 7 times over. So there are for sure heavy metals in there, because do you know what it takes to grind down those powders and get 6 pounds of kamut and make it into 1 teaspoon, which is 1 serving of what you'll drink? It is a lot of technology. And if you do not have a company that is absolutely committed to keeping it glyphosate and heavy metal free and gluten free and all the things, you're getting toxins. So it's like, you know, you see AG1 is out there and it's like a very, you know, prominent marketing thing. there's not all organic and there's heavy metals in there. It is not tested multiple levels. So we have to raise our awareness. So I love that Magenta's saying that. We've been saying that through my channel since 2020. Like, we have got to shift this. We have to saturate our body with these foods. And we have to make sure we're not just taking anything off the shelf. We have to make sure that we are really going with the highest consciousness, and you can feel it. So just, take those different greens and take them to your heart, one at a time, and see where you feel the expansion and the light, because your body will tell you, your body knows where the light is.
I love that you brought that in, because one of the things that is so fascinating for me is I have been using Purium for years. Like, when it was delivered to you, it was then very soon delivered to me, because you're like, oh my gosh, you have to try this. And that was back at the very beginning of 2021. So it's been almost, we're almost up to 4 years now. What is fascinating is that I could not feel in my physical body a difference for 2.5 years. It was not until last August during the Lionsgate, I remember, because the energy and the light was so massive, and it was like there was so much, and it was just like, "Whoa!" Like, that's how the energy of the collective felt, and of all the light coming in. And I remember at that point, my body was like, shake, shake, shakes, aminos, aminos, aminos. And for the first time ever, when I would like be drinking my shake, which is like, the power shake, it's all greens. It's the equivalent of 6 organic salads. My body would be like feeling the light. And I can't even explain the difference for me, because before, it was not any different than drinking anything else. And that is because personally, I have been locked out of my body for so many reasons. The way I grew up, all the toxins I had from just growing up in a regular middle class, all the things. And I had a lot of trauma that I was unpacking. And so my physical body was very disconnected from my own senses, and still is to some degree. Like, I have friends who can, like you were saying, they drink Purium and it just like fills all their cells. Like, I did not have that experience for like 2.5 years, but I kept drinking it every day anyway. And I kept doing all the things because I knew, I understood logically this. Like, I did all the research, and I trusted you, and I like looked into the company, and I trusted that they were doing the right thing. I didn't find another company that was doing the same thing. And so for years, I just did it because I knew I was doing something good for myself. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't tell that it made a difference. It didn't feel like it mattered to me, but I kept doing it. And then finally, after 2.5 years, all of a sudden it's like, oh, like I would be, having 15 or 20 aminos a day, and it would be so grounding to my body. And the shakes, I'd have like 2 or 3 shakes, and it would just be like, oh, filling all my cells with light. And I just want everyone to know that doesn't have that experience. I didn't have it for years because my body was not even available for that. So, and that's the whole point. It took 2.5 years of all the things consistently every day for me to finally be clear enough and connected enough. And I'm a person who does spiritual practices, and I teach somatic healing, but I had still so many blocks in my system that I could not actually feel the experience. So I think that's really important, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know that I don't notice the difference.
Thank you, Anna, for bringing that in. That's so important. And we also don't know like what childhood antibiotics or vaccines that you had that could have been the blockage there that wasn't allowing for that as well, not to mention the trauma. So like, I've had all my vaccines repaired. So I'm living in a very like, yeah, so it's very important to give people lots of options and potentials for how this is going to land in your body. I think what I love about you and what I've seen for you, Anna, is your devotion to living your highest path and giving it that time and space, because most people won't, right? They'll do 30 days and be like, yeah, it was okay. Meh. But they're dealing with so much density from trauma, from toxins. How many vaccines have they had? Like, what's been in their body that could be all the antibiotics, that they've used over time, that is blocking them from being able to feel their cells radiating. And it just takes time for all of that glyphosate to get out, to enough of a level that they can feel, oh, I can feel my body in a whole new way. So thank you for bringing that in, because I think that's so important. When people hear my story, then they think, oh, okay, if I don't feel it in 3 days, then it's
Yeah,
not
it's
working
not
for me.
working.
And
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
not for
I
me.
ate clean for 20 years, had all my injury, medications released from my body, all toxin, I'm in a different space. And even those who eat clean saying like, well, I'm just not really feeling it. Like,
It
again,
doesn't matter.
we have to
Yeah,
look at the emotional trauma. If you can be as healthy externally as possible, if you're not dealing with your emotional traumas and you haven't worked those through, like Anna said, you're going to be disconnected from your body. You're not going to be able to tell. So it's really trusting your intuition, like Anna did, of like, I know, and I can feel that this is like the highest vibration food I can have. And that's important to me. So I'm going to keep showing up for this. And then 2.5 years later, 2 years later at the Lions Gate, I remember you sending me the messages and you were like, oh, it was just like a whole other level. So everyone has their unique journey based on what their body is working with, and what their emotional traumas are and physical traumas and all of those things. So it's really making the choice, Anna, and I love that you brought this in, making the choice. Because I know what's happening in the matrix, I'm going to choose to put purium organic superfoods in my body for as long as they're available to me, or until we're in the golden age, whichever comes first. And I'm going to trust that it's doing exactly what it needs to do. And then you will have that moment, whether it's 3 days, 2 years, whatever it is, you'll have that moment where you feel that light turn on in your cells in a whole new way. And then you'll be like, that's what they were talking about. Okay, I got it.
and this brings us back around to where we started, like spiritual nutrition. Why is that the entry point? And I think it's so important because a lot of people aren't doing the level of emotional or trauma healing. And a lot of people still don't even understand trauma. Like, well, I didn't have a traumatic childhood. Growing up in this world is traumatic,
That's right. That's right.
period.
Birth is
So,
traumatic. Like,
right,
it's all
all of this
traumatic. Yeah.
is just traumatic.
Uh-huh.
It's just today is traumatic. Like,
Yeah.
look out what's happening in the world. And I don't actually do that, but imagine what's out there happening in the world. It's traumatic. So that brings us back around to a lot of people aren't doing the really deep dive that they could be doing. And a lot of people are not even able to do it yet because they have not reached a level of balance in their body that allows them to even sit and do the work. And that's what I had been finding in my practice of trying to help people with somatic healing. Like, people were getting results and doing a lot of healing, but it was very difficult for them to do it on their own and to let it stick and to let it land. And what I'm becoming to understand, and what you have been talking to us about and talking about for a long time, is this is the entry point because it allows you to get in your body enough and to clear out enough of the gunk to then start doing more and more and more and getting into the layers, whether it's, this emotional piece or this old trauma or glyphosate or antibiotics, like whatever it was. Purium is like the inroad to, and like this, organic spiritual nutrition is the inroad into, so like not eating GMO, not eating organic, like that's also just as important. Like, it's not just eat Purium and keep eating Cheetos. It's stop eating GMOs, stop eating anything that is not organic, know your farmers, go direct, use companies like, 1 Degree I just found, which is amazing. They do what Purium does and they know their farmers, they grow oats and flowers and things. And so like start making the connections to where you're not adding additional toxic load to your body and you're starting to clear it out, because then you will be able to do the practices and the have enough balance in your body to do the things that are necessary for you to do to keep elevating. And to that end, we are getting ready for a massive fall nourishment experience with the ULT, which we both want to change the name to. It's ULT, Ultimate Lifestyle Transformation with Purium, but I don't love that. I love nourishment experience better because, like you were saying, it doesn't feel like a cleanse. It feels like a massive flooding our body with superfoods. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we are getting ready to do that over the fall equinox. And I know you mentioned on a recent interview, you were talking about the ULT and how it allows people to have the transformation at every level of consciousness. As we wrap up, is there anything additional you want to say about that or the ULT? Like, you know, oh my gosh, so I'm not even just transforming my body, I'm also transforming these other levels. Like, how do I even do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I just had a client who I've been working with for many years, and we had been working on her breaking an addiction to a substance. And we've been working with it with the energy medicine. And she would go months, without the substance, and she had greater and greater gaps, but she would always come back to the substance. And that was because of the physiological addiction at the body level. And so she started doing ULTs, a few of them a year, and she started living a detox lifestyle. So all the things Anna and I have been talking about here. And then she added in pineal clear when it came up. And we talked about our pineal decalcification because the pineal is the master gland of the body. And that's what the EMFs and so much of the toxic foods are doing, is they're taking the pineal offline for the human. And she is now completely free of that substance. She said the program is gone. And that's because we deleted the program through the energy work. And then she supported the releasing of the physiological addiction through the superfoods and the pineal clear. And she's like, I'm on this for life because this will keep me clear of these substances. So I say it's the entry point to the highest healing, because really, if you can stick with it and you can really, like in Anna's story and in my client's story, I know this is supportive for me and I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep showing up for this. I'm always surprised when I do a ULT of how much emotional cleansing comes up for me, like all this stuff. I'm meditating every day and I get healing sessions all the time, but it'll bring stuff up that I didn't know was there. And we use our tools, we let it go, and it releases so much more gently than I've ever experienced through food, through just saturating the body with these high vibrational frequency foods. So I would really invite anyone who feels a resonance to anything we've shared here to just try it out, right? Experiment in your life. Do 90 days. It takes 90 days to change a habit. Do 90 days of these superfoods. You don't have to change your whole diet if that feels like too much. Just start taking them in. Do the fall ULT with us and extend that through November. And just see how you feel. You're going to see random things in your body healing, like, oh, that weird patch of eczema I had is going to go away. And like, oh, I'm having to go to the bathroom all the time, like that urgency went away. Or, oh, my skin is glowing. People start saying to me, like, what are you doing differently? And you're going to have greater awakenings. I have a client who uses the ULT for her spiritual awakening. She's like, when I want to awaken at the next level of consciousness, I do a ULT. Right? So you can use this as a spiritual tool to support you at all levels of consciousness, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that's what I recommend you do. And so try it out for 90 days. Give yourself start with our 30-day container that Anna's leading so beautifully. Extend it for the 90 days. Really see what happens. Give your body the chance to start communicating with you. And at the end of the 90 days, say, okay, what are the superfoods I'm taking with me moving forward? Because like Anna, you could be 2 years in and have your next level awakening, the next level download from spirit, and your next level activation of all of your cells. Or it could be a year or 6 months or whatever your body needs. But I would really encourage people, if you're resonating with we're talking about nutrition at a very high level of consciousness, right? This is a very high level of consciousness. And so if there's some part of you that's like, oh, I can feel that, maybe it's uncomfortable. Maybe you don't want to know it. Trust me, I did not want to know what was happening to the food supply. But once you know, you can't unknow. So I'd really encourage you to join Anna's container, lean in for 90 days, and just let your body show you what's possible, and let these organic, pure superfoods at a spiritual consciousness transform you. And I believe that's why they call it the ultimate lifestyle transformation. But I agree that it really needs to be like called the nourishment experience, because you will feel so cared for. It's like you are just like mothering yourself by just drenching your cells in the highest nutrition. So I'll leave
Yeah.
it there. Thank you, Anna, for having me and having this conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who is listening and watching. And join us for the ULT 30 days of just flooding your body with massive organic, live, raw superfoods from high consciousness. It is spiritual nutrition. If for some reason that just feels like too much to bite off, get their come up blend or start with their what they call core 4, which is it's basically half of the ULT. So it's just your daily nourishment. You don't have to change anything else you're doing. Like just try it for 90 days, see how it feels. Um, just get curious and see like what is it going to hurt? Like it can't hurt you. And they have a 60-day money back guarantee. It's ridiculous. You can use all the products and send it back. And I'm sure no one ever does, because why would you do that? So try it, see what we're talking about. If you already eat clean, add the green powders and all the things, because like we both experienced, we were eating clean and oh my gosh, there's this whole other level. I didn't even realize how much toxic was in my clean stuff. So take it into your sacred heart and see what feels good, and join us at whatever level. But for those that are really ready to up level and dive in, join us for the fall nourishment experience with the ULT. It will change your life.
It absolutely will. And I'll just say, if you were sent here by someone, if someone sent you to watch this video, get back to them, get their gift card code so that you can work directly with them on this amazing journey that we are all on. Thank you, Anna, for creating this sacred space and creating this container for us to dive deeper here.
Thank you. And there will be lots of details on how to contact Dr. Christian in the notes below, and also how to join the fall nourishment experience below. I will drop in my code, but if someone else has a code, like if someone sent you, if you know somebody that does Purium, reach out to them for theirs, because we all want to receive the abundance that is ours, and there is enough for everybody. So we hope you will join us. Thank you so much for watching.